A week ago, I gave a keynote at a company called Picanol. It's a Belgian company. It's the #1 producer of weaving machinery in the world. And it was very fortunate for me for two reasons. First of all, it's a company that is 50 years has been doing business with China. I mean, this is amazing. In the 60s, they were already doing business with China. But the other one was that this is probably my last keynote of this year because the whole Europe is in semi-lockdown. So I got the opportunity, and the owner of Picanol, Luc Tac, he raised the question at the end of my keynote and said, Pascal, we've been doing business with China for a long time, but today, if you would look at today, what is the right mindset to succeed in China? So today we're going to talk about the mindset that Western companies need in order to succeed in China to enter the market. And over the past 20 years, I've seen 3 different types of companies in general. There's the gold diggers, the opportunists. Let's look at the market, huge market, we have to go to China. There's the missionaries, that we have great products, great quality, Chinese will definitely need it, and we want to convert the Chinese to buy our products or services. And the third ones are the cultural anthropologists, those that say, we want to see what's happening there. We're curious, we want to understand it, and want to see if we have a value in that market and maybe learn something from it. Now, if we look at the first one, the gold diggers, there's many of them, especially 20, 30 years ago, most of the companies were gold diggers. And they went into China, and I want to tell you a little story which I really liked. It's a movie I saw on Netflix, a series, and it's called The State of Happiness. And this is a movie in Norway in 1969, where Norway has a lot of oil under the ground, but back then they didn't know that. And so the American companies and Phillips Petroleum and Shell and a lot of companies, they started digging down under the seabed to find the oil. And ultimately, they couldn't find any. But Phillips tried one last time, and that last time was successful. And they found the biggest oil reserve in the North Sea, or in any place under the sea that you can find. And this was like the biggest gold mine ever. But as soon as they found it, and they had some deals with the Norwegian government, the government said, well, this resource, this oil is ours. And we will have state companies, state-owned companies, run and manage and operate those rigs. And so Phillips Petroleum got some money out of it because they've invested so much, but all the others, it was in vain. And the last one, they stayed a little while, but ultimately it was taken over by the government. And this is the same in China. And I'm not talking about the government taking over all the companies in the West, but often it's the market and the competition that plays it in a way with regulation that you can't succeed. Companies like Google, Facebook, eBay, they all failed because they didn't even want to understand what the market was, or they didn't want to adapt. Good or bad, that's a different discussion. Right or wrong, that's a different debate. But these companies did not want to adapt to the local market. They were the gold diggers, and most of them died. Now, the second type are the missionaries, and I know this very well because I started working for one of these companies in 1999, so 21 years ago. This is Alcatel. Alcatel was this French company. I worked for the Belgium division and actually the joint venture company in Shanghai. And they wanted to teach the Chinese everything about telecommunication. Great, and the Chinese loved them. I mean, missionaries are always welcome because they teach others how to get civilization and get culture and get everything, the economy up. But once this telecommunication industry went into mobile, Alcatel lost the market. They didn't follow quickly enough with Ericsson and the local company like Huawei. So very clear, missionaries, they have a hard time if they don't change. But they're welcomed, more than the gold diggers. And then ultimately those that failed is known like Barbie from Mattel. I mean, Chinese don't have this concept of Barbie, so it was very difficult to convert people or children to love these Barbie dolls. But also there's companies like Home Depot, the do-it-yourself chain. Because China doesn't have a do-it-yourself culture. It's a do-it-for-me culture because a lot of people still want to offer this do-it environment or try to construct things for you at very, very good prices. So there's no do-it-yourself in China. And these companies fail. So missionaries, They can live 5, 10 years, but ultimately they don't survive long, because once the Chinese know the standards, they know the quality, they're like, we can do this better and we'll do it our way. And a lot of these companies actually have suffered. Now, those that did better were the automotive companies. The Germans a little bit better than the French, but still there were missionaries in the beginning. Now, the last category which I want to talk about is the ones that I think is the right mindset to succeed. And these are what I call the cultural anthropologist. And my daughter, she studies in Holland, in Netherlands, cultural anthropology. So I'm very keen to this subject. And this is really about getting into the society, going and live with the people, learning their language, learning their culture, learning everything about it and how it changed, and changing with them, and then communicating that back home. And this is what the successful companies have done. I'm thinking about L'Oreal in the luxury sector. Many luxury companies done it very well. Think about companies like a Starbucks or an IKEA. Great success, but they adapted their rooms to smaller apartments. And then, of course, the number one is Coca-Cola, which was the first foreign company in China. Extremely successful because they adapted to the local culture. And there's many, many more examples. Now, the ones that went too far, in my view, is a company like Uber. They almost became a Chinese company. And that was to their success. But ultimately, they had to sell off that company to Didi, right now the biggest competitor in the world for Uber, because they couldn't keep up the pace of Didi and other companies. And so I think you don't want to get too far ahead and lose your own culture, because then you become so Chinese that you have to work against Chinese, and then ultimately you might lose out. Now, the last part, the cultural anthropologist, in my view, that's the right mind to succeed in China. And this has everything to do with an open mind, with curiosity, and wanting to learn from the Chinese. And those with that mindset from now on, especially from now on, I think will succeed in China. So I believe the era of gold diggers is over. I mean, there might be some small gold mines somewhere, but the general feeling is don't be a gold digger in China anymore. That's the past. And many made lots of money, but that's not today. Missionaries could still work very well, because a lot of programs that China has, the government, is still like clean tech or microelectronics, or even services like retirement homes to get it better, a lot of high tech. All that is real much in need. But don't forget, if you're a missionary and you believe that you are better in your products, and you probably are, then you should make sure that you adapt before they get up to your standards, so you can focus and become the third type, which is a cultural anthropologist. If you start from there, the chances are really high that you will succeed. But you still need all the ingredients to succeed anywhere in the world, which is about great product, great service, great team, and so on. So it's not just, the luck isn't just about having the right mindset, it's more than that. So I hope these three categories give you some idea of how to approach the market in China today. And I hope to see you next week then for another episode of Pascal's China Lens.